things that I think is most exciting is that right after lunch, I'm going to speak about this in a couple of seconds again, but right after lunch, Sherry Wallace, who is the head of IT for the City of Vancouver, is going to be doing a session here in which I hope everybody in this room will go, because she's looking for advice on what data we should be trying to open up and how we can open up that data. So technical solutions, but also what data we can be opening up, and just generally soliciting the ideas, support, and problem-solving skills of the people in this room. And there's not a lot of cities in the world where the IT director for a city would come and do that. Sorry, because I haven't got all my slides, it's going to be a little bit funky here. One of the things that's also going on is we want to take this motion and we want to actually open source the motion itself. So on a website called Think Like the Web, where you can find Mark Sermon's original presentation, we are going to upload both this presentation, but we've also uploaded a bared bones version of the motion that the City of Vancouver passed. So we've stripped out all of the stuff that was specific to Vancouver, and we've created a version 1.1 of the open source motion. So if you don't live in Vancouver, you live in Richmond, or you live in San Francisco, or you live in New York, and you believe that your city needs a motion like this, we're not saying use our motion, but we are saying use our motion. And if you don't think it's appropriate for your city, edit it. And I work at the thinklikeaweb.org website, and if you want to create a fork for your city, just let me know. I'll create a new subpage for your city. You can take that there, and you can start banging away at it. If you want to lead the effort in your city, I'll give you access to the website, and you can serve as the module owner for that version of the motion. So our goal here is to share this. The more people who use this motion, the more powerful open source options and open source data and open data will be. So the other piece I want to say is, and this is a more sensitive part. I really wrestled about whether or not to share this, but I'm really nervous about how long it took a motion like this to get passed in a city. As far as we know, Vancouver's the first city to pass a motion like this. And one of the things I think this community really needs to hear is it needs to get better at how it mobilizes itself in a political manner. For so long, whenever I sit down with people who care about open source, they obsess about the technical reasons why open source is better. I got to tell you, the city councilors we were speaking to did not give a hoot about the technical specifications of open source or why it was better than a proprietary option. They really didn't care about the battle between proprietary software and open source software. In fact, mentioning that battle probably makes them more nervous. Because they're going to sit there and go, whoa, there's a battle going on? Do we really want to wade into that? What do they want to hear? They want to hear how this software and how open standards and how open data is going to transform the experience of being a citizen in their city. We got to stop speaking to each other, and we got to speak to councilors, and we got to speak to citizens. Now, Vancouver's kind of an interesting place because we have a small number of councilors, and they tend to align a little bit around party lines. So it's actually easier to get a coalition of people who want to move something forward. But in a lot of cities, especially cities where there are wards, it's very hard to predict how a vote's going to turn out. And if you show up and you start talking about, technical terms and why this is important, specifications, and and why, the fact that a bunch of people can't access the city is a problem, and then they find out that that's really only about 1% of people, you're going to lose them. You got to talk about why this matters to the citizen. So the final piece here is, what can you do? Well, the most important thing you can do is help. So I already talked a little bit about this. We're trying to identify the data sets. And when I say we're, I mean everybody in this room. There's all data that you want to have access to. So we need to identify the data sets that are going to be the sexiest and most interesting to play with over the short term. This is a long-term process for the city. This is a billion-dollar operation. You're not going to turn it on a dime. But we have an opportunity, especially because some of the city staff are here in the room right now, are going to be here back in an hour, to influence them directly, to share with them what it is that you're looking for. So as I mentioned, Sherry's going to be here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I cannot stress enough how important it is that people show up and help her. And this, I think, should be what we're asking of them. This is the website at the City of Washington, D.C., which is the index of all of the data that they are sharing so far. So there's a lot of things I love about this website. The first thing, if you look in the top left-hand corner, it says, here are the live data feeds, the Google Maps, but then it has the most popular downloads, so you can see what other people are using. And then there's a little search bar right here about 3/4 of the way down, where you can search for any keyword and it'll take you to the data sets that have those keywords in them. And then underneath it, the web page here actually goes on for miles and miles and miles. I think there's like 200 data sets now, and it lists them. And the other piece I like about it, it tells you, here are the 5 standards that we're using, and you can see already on some of the pieces of data, it says, yep, we have this one in XML, this one in CSV, this one is in RSS, and then some of them it doesn't make sense, like it's not geodata, that's probably not going to be in KML. So it actually lists the type of ways that you can download it, and they do it in multiple formats for the same data set. They're not satisfied with doing it with just one format. And this, I think, is the gold standard that we have to hold ourselves to. And this will take time, but you need to find ways to help. And sometimes that means there are data sets out there the city doesn't have. You can do this. You find that data set, you can organize it. We don't have to wait for the city. But this is the standard I'm hoping the city is going to hold itself to. And this is the things that it allows them to do. I know most of the people in the room are probably familiar with these types of examples, but I'm going to dwell on them anyways. And the reason I'm going to dwell on them is that if anyone's going to make these examples come to life, it's going to be you guys. So Fix My Street, of course, most people are familiar with. It has ways that allow citizens to inform cities, or to at least inform each other, about places where, for example, maybe there's a pothole, or there's a problem, a light fixture isn't working to cross the road. And allows you to analyze all sorts of data in the city. This, for me, is kind of one of the ideal points that we can get to. There's now a fixmystreet.ca open source code that is out there with being held by our friends at Visible Government. So if you want to contribute to that project, that's a possibility. But integrating with the City of Vancouver, for me, feels like the kind of thing that has enormous potential. The other one, of course, everybody knows is Google Transit. This is another great example of where Vancouver's already shared, not the City of Vancouver, but Vancouver has shared its data with Google so that you can use Google Maps to figure out how you're going to get from point A to B using the public transport system. And in fact, I don't think I've ever been to the Translink website. I've only ever used Google Maps to find my way around. I do love, though, the little numbers that they have on each bus stop, which you can use your cell phone to text message, and it tells you what the next 5 buses are coming. So that's the innovation of Translink that I like. And what I'm really hoping for is that Translink's going to share that data so that it can appear on these sites as well. The apps for democracy, I'm not empowered to commit to anything, but I know that the councillors are thinking very, very hard about once data sets get released, there is a real desire to hold an apps for something here in the City of Vancouver. Apps for housing, I think, would be an interesting example. And also apps for the greenest city to figure out how ways we could share composting since the city doesn't collect compost. What are ways that maybe citizens can get together to collectively put their compost in a single place if that makes up 50% of our waste. And the apps for democracy I already mentioned. I think 54 apps were created, $29 million worth of value. Some of these I love. The carpooling app I love. What a great way to get people out of their cars, and so you can find someone to carpool with you nearby. And then for tourism, this one's a historic tour, so it shows you all the historical sites in DC. So now all of a sudden, a tourist who's coming to DC doesn't have to necessarily rely on a specific branded tourism site. There's an open source option available to them. But this is the app that gets me the most excited, and I'm only sharing it because I have the floor and I don't code, so I'm going to try to encourage others to. This is the Every Block app, and what really blows my mind about this app is you open it up and it immediately tells you everything that's going on within about 150 feet of where you're standing. So it tells you all of the events that are going on around you, but it also allows you to sort through categories right here so you can find out what is the crime that's happened nearby me. Now for the City of Vancouver, I can imagine all sorts of things like what are the zonings for this block? What are the development applications in this block? What's the crime that's happened here? What are the houses that might be for sale? So taking data that both the city has and the data that's out there and merging it into an Every Block app just like this. Imagine the power that gives citizens to figure out what's going on both where they live or in the places they care most about. They simply open their phone and all the data is right there waiting for them.